courage, commitment, desire. This is the Blitz, baby! Yeah!
I'm Travis Downey, and this is Will Parchman, and this is another edition of the Northwest Florida Daily News' Prep Football Blitz, state playoff, state semifinal, state Final Four, that edition. Before we look ahead, though, to this week's games, Will, Freeport, their magical season comes to an end a week ago. Impressions of that game, what you took away from it?
Well, I think we were all kind of bracing for that. I'm certain Freeport kind of knew they were the underdogs. They knew that going in. They were kind of expecting a dogfight, and they certainly got it. Trinity Christian was bigger, faster, stronger, you know, everything we kind of expected. But as you saw there, didn't give up in the second half, kind of, I think, held them to a field goal and scored those 14 points.
Yep.
And really kind of made it a game there in the end. I mean, it was still a blowout, but you know, obviously nothing to hang their heads about there in Freeport. You know, best season in history. I mean,
right.
it won't be as long of an off season as it has been in recent years there in Freeport. But then moving on to Niceville. And then there was one.
Right.
And this is it. I mean, this is kind of what you know, those long August practices and the sweat and the heat, and you know, you do it to be in this position.
Yes, and you know, entering the season as far back as August, we kind of all thought Niceville would be the cream of the crop. We thought Fort Walton Beach had a chance. They had some injuries. We won't rehash all of that, but yeah, Niceville's right where they kind of hoped, and many maybe expected them to be. You know, deep in the playoffs. They're going to have Orlando Edgewater, a really strong team out of Orlando. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. A lot of speed on both sidelines. And speaking with John Hicks and players in that Niceville locker room, it should be interesting to see how these two teams match up.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to look at is this was a 6A team. This Edgewater team just a year ago, a 6A team, dropped down to 4A, one of these rare two classification drops. This season, they've kind of acquitted themselves well, though, on that account. I mean, they are 1-3 against 6A teams, so their former classification, but they do have a win over Winter Park, which only has 2 losses this year, and that's a 6A team that, you know, had a very good year. Right. Historically, they've been a solid program. Last year, they were only 5-5. Yeah. But still, I mean, they've been competitive with a lot of really top 6A teams in the state.
You look, when they were in 6A, they had a run from 02 to 04 that they were in they played for a state championship every single year, 3 straight years. I mean, this is a program 9 straight years up until last year, which you mentioned they kind of had a drop in their wins total, but they were in the playoffs every season for 9 straight years, just like Niceville has been in the last 9. I mean, they've reached the playoffs. So it's 2 programs that are used to winning, whose players kind of grow up and mature in that culture and are developed that way. So that's why I think it's even a more interesting matchup to see how these 2 teams go at it Friday night. My thing that I'll be kind of curious to see is how Niceville's offensive line can hold up. They're going to be going against a defense in Edgewater, really tough up front, really fast, very fast. And Niceville struggled at times with those off-tackle runs last week, and they had to go more at perimeter game, use their speed. The speed, it may be a little bit more evened up this time. And then when you look at Edgewater, they have a defensive tackle, 6'2", 310, I believe he's a commit to Central Florida, his name being E.J. Dunston. He's a hoss. Yeah. So, you know, you're going to have to be accounted for him. I'm interested to see, though, you know, how those linemen, Mark Barrett, Tyler Hall, Chris Rutherford, how those guys handle that front. That's going to be a key for this game. Yeah,
and one thing I don't think should kind of obscure your view here is, yes, this was a 6A team last year. While they were in a 6A team, they lost to Tallahassee Lincoln. Yep. That 5-5 season, they lost to Lincoln. Obviously, that's a team that Niceville's beat twice this year.
Right.
I think that gap is not as big as maybe it looks on paper. I mean, obviously it's a 4A team now, but I think you kind of have to throw that out the window and just kind of accept that, you know, you got to take them on their merits this season. Yeah. And I think Niceville, their merits kind of lend themselves to be the faves in this one. I think if anything, it would skew more towards Edgewater only because, you know, the home field advantage, and that's a 6-hour road trip, and that's pretty tough.
Yeah, but I think Niceville too, and I think you'll agree with this, they've gone on the road, they've played tough road environments, and they've won. I don't worry about the road or the side of the game as much. One thing I'm also curious, you know, we mentioned their likeness to some teams that Niceville's seen. Pine Forest came up a lot. Lincoln was also mentioned just because of the quarterback. You know, Kent Gaines, really multi-dimensional quarterback, can run, can throw very well, kind of like the guy they saw last week. So that's going to be another key. Can they contain him and limit the big plays that he has? Because we saw last week and in the prior meeting with Lincoln that the quarterback had some success against that defense.
Yeah, with all that in mind, I think I'm going to take Niceville in this one.
Yeah.
I think it's a little too. They're just a little too talented. They've just been done too much this year.
They can win a number of ways. They can win with a big play. They can win with a grind out approach on the offense, and they can win on defense now. They've made some big plays with defense. I like I like Niceville to go on the road and get this win and play for their first state title since '88.
Sure. And this place would be a buzz.
It will be. It will be.
Definitely guarantee if that happens. We appreciate you joining us. For all you Niceville fans out there, enjoy the game on Friday.